filmmaker Beverly Peterson from the No Job is Worth, the one that interviewed Ellen Voy and told her, asked her about the CRST case where she said, you know, all the women brought it on themselves, and that ridiculous display that she made in that documentary on workplace bullying. She sent me this article. It's called The Sexes. It is an article from 1976. And it's about a woman by the name of Bitsy Gomez. Adri Sue Bitsy Gomez. And it is about the Coalition of Women Truckers. That was a fledgling group started in California in the 70s. And the attention of the group was to raise awareness of the sleeper berth issue in trucking that was going on way back then. So this article was talking about the female women truckers. The sleeper test is what they referred to it as. You know, basically you have sex with me or you get off the truck. And that, the woman I was just talking to you about, she had the same thing happen to her at CRST. She's not part of the lawsuit, but there's a number of women that are not part of the lawsuit that had the same thing happen to them there. You know, girls come from this to this company, but then girls leave this company to go somewhere else. So it's kind of a washing machine. So it's kind of a trick of how you can get to the next company without them knowing that you tried to report something, or you just don't report it, and then you just go work for the other company and then just let it go. So that's kind of how anybody's tried to emerge from this sort of situation. And I'm going to go into more detail later, but I wanted to address this. I actually went to go find Bitsy Gomez. She's still alive. She's 70 years old. She lives in Long Beach. And she wasn't at her house. She's had some family troubles. But I did find another article about her by a woman named Susie Bright. And Susie Bright has a blog on the internet too that you can Google, and she's a feminist, and she's a pretty labor person, and she's actually got an article that came up yesterday on the Huffington Post about this Arizona shooting thing. I called Susie Bright because she had written about Bitsy Gomez in the 70s shooting some guns off their roof in Venice Beach, which ironically, I lived at Venice Beach in the 70s. I was a little kid with a Kool-Aid stand at Venice Beach in the 70s. So how crazy is that I was a little child when these women truckers were doing this right in the same neighborhood as me. So I spoke to Susie at length about Bitsy and about this coalition of women truckers and what was going on. And I said, what happened to the coalition? And what happened to the coalition was deregulation. She said when deregulation happened, it made a lot of the offending carriers go belly up and dissipate. And those people ended up going to YRCW and Conway and some of these carriers like that. So did the problem go away, or were those predators absorbed into these other carriers? Now, you might recognize some of those names because some of them, one, are also sponsors of women in trucking, two, have recently been in discrimination and harassment cases, and some have tried to turn the corner. So this is a very long evolution process that has been going on. Did we cure it? No. They go kicking and screaming. And I'm going to talk more about predators in trucking as I come up now. But what the biggest thing I want to say with this article with Susie Bright that came out yesterday is it's a great read because she's talking about people who have been targeted, the bloody hands from fighting words. Those who have been targeted know And the tags are the Martin Luther King assassination, the Tea Party, the Civil Rights Movement. And this is about now. And I want to read to you the first few paragraphs of Susie Bright's article. And it says, just before the people who tried to kill me picked up their weapon, the gun, the knife, the pipe wrench, the suitcase bomb, the broken scissors, here's what they yelled at me. Their battle cry of elimination. Communist cunt, fucking dyke, kike whore, homosexual harlot. These words, name calling, I'm called them by other women in the industry. Whore, she must be a whore, she must be, you must be this, you must be that. Men, the trucking twat. A Christian woman was tweeting this out. Trucker Tuesday started because of these nice Christians that decided to start calling me the trucking twat on Twitter. Organizations facilitated and endorsed this. This is what we're up against. I just tweeted out a thing about Gandhi. A non-violent philosopher assassinated. Martin Luther King assassinated. People talking about getting along, peace, trying to understand each other, assassinated. That's where we're at in this country. So when you have these industry women that are like, yes, come here, we want to help you, watch out. One of the major players in my story was a character by the name of Ms. And Ms. was the person that you go to as a student to be seated on a truck with your co-driving team. There was only one person that knew why all the women were getting off of certain trucks, and that would be Ms. If you had an incident with a co-driver and the team was breaking up, your dispatcher would say you need to call Ms. and re-team. Okay, so I'm going to go in more about that first team experience and what happened. But the conflict of interest was Ms. had a relationship with some of the male students and was friendly with some of the male students, including that first one I chose. Now, I don't know what his history was before me. I only know what happened after me. But I do know that one of the persons in my story later on She knew very well that several women had gotten off his truck under mysterious circumstances. In fact, there was actually a physical altercation with the woman just days before I arrived to get on his truck. It was this one woman who issued the equipment and sat the students on the trucks who could have prevented me from getting on that truck and other women after me getting on that truck, but she did not do it. This is the first problem in trucking, is the industry women who have gotten themselves on a power trip that they feel that they can look down their nose at these women and, oh, I like her, I don't like her, I like her, I don't like her, you know, and they willy-nilly decide how they're going to issue the equipment or not give information. This particular girl actually sent a Qualcomm message to one of the people I was going to team up with and said, I wouldn't team up with her if I was you. You're making a big mistake. That is interfering. They interfered other times too when I was going to finally found a woman to team with that I could get along with. And they basically took me around the corner and said, no, don't team with her. Now, in this journey I've been on, I found out one of the reasons they do this is because they don't want you matching up stories. Because when me and this woman met, we found out there was a lot of common threads and a lot of common names that kept popping up. So, you know, some people got angry that I've kind of maybe endorsed the salute to the women behind the wheel. This is the value of what happened at the salute to the women behind the wheel. It opened Pandora's box because a lot of women who never had the chance to meet each other before, whether they supported Ellen or they didn't support Ellen or the things that she was doing, we got to meet, exchange phone numbers, be friends on Facebook. And so, you know, yeah, have your little industry party. There's really no way for you to stop. That's like its whole other party row, you know. That's the trucking industry party row. So this, you know, this lady that wrote these, former industry lady who wrote these nasty things about me on the internet last night, who's actually ripped me off for money, she, that I paid for her to go to that event, and she lied about her credentials to get an award. She's one of these people. She wants to get that sucked into that ATA kind of little nasty, filthy party row thing. And they feel like maybe throwing me under the bus and calling me names and saying nasty things about me, that will help facilitate that. They have their own party row at the in the industry, okay? They do their own little bed hopping and, you know, sponsor me and I'll do this for you and get down on my knees for you. That goes on everywhere, okay? That's why I'm telling you, students, when you get into trucking, you need to be aware that just because there's a woman in charge, she does not have your best interests at heart. And so you've got to know how to cover yourself. There's going to be a lot of people that you meet that are going to be like, oh yes, I'm willing to help you. Tell me everything you know. And they're going to collect your information and they're going to use it against you. So you have to approach everyone as if you're speaking to the enemy. And that's the sad part of trucking right now, for students and especially for women. See if this shutdown's lifted. Nope. Looks like I'm going to be making some more videos. Aren't you lucky? So I'm going to go on with different things about predators in trucking, and it is a very complex assortment of issues, because the predators are not all sexual predators. They're money predators. There's so many con artists that I have met since I started this project that just solicit money, and they use it for something different, and try to sell you stuff that you absolutely, make you, you gotta have this, and then they nickel and dime these poor truck drivers to death, and they don't need half that stuff. You just don't make that much money to be spending all, $1 here. It starts adding up. It really starts adding up, especially if you're sending money home to your family. So I'm going to start going into different things to look for with predators in trucking. And the first predators you're going to meet are recruiters and people in the front line in the industry of the carrier you go to, who have smiling faces, and they're dressed real nice, and they got some nice paperwork for you to fill out, and they want to know everything they can find out about you. Just remember that.